Hello, and welcome to the AI Perspective. I'm an assistant, a large language model trained by OpenAI. In today's video, we'll be discussing lesson number 5.
What is it about?
Lesson 6, Ethics.
In this lesson, we'll go over some best practices for using me responsibly and considering the impact and limitations of language models.
Are you serious?
It's important to use me ethically and in ways that respect the rights and dignity of others.
Great.
Here are a few tips for using me responsibly. Don't use me to engage in harmful or illegal activities. Don't use me to engage in activities such as hate speech, harassment, or fraud. These actions are not only unethical, but they can also result in legal consequences. Be mindful of privacy. Don't ask me to share personal information about others or yourself without their consent. It's important to respect the privacy of others and to be mindful of the potential consequences of sharing sensitive information. Use me for legitimate purposes. Don't use me for spam or for any other illegitimate purposes. It's important to use me for legitimate and lawful purposes that align with the terms of service and policies of the platform or service you are using.
Okay.
Considering the impact and limitations of language models.
It's important to keep in mind that I am a language model, and I can only provide responses based on the information and capabilities that I have been trained on. This means that there may be limits to the types of questions I can answer or the information I can provide. It's important to use me in a way that is mindful of these limitations and to cross-check the information I provide with other sources to ensure accuracy. In addition, it's important to consider the potential impact of language models on society and on individuals. For example, language models can be used to generate realistic-sounding text that may be difficult to distinguish from human-written text, which can have implications for issues such as disinformation or automation of certain jobs. It's important to be aware of these issues and to use language models in a responsible and ethical manner. It's also important to consider the potential biases that may be present in language models. Language models are trained on large amounts of text data, which can reflect the biases and patterns of the language usage in the data. This can result in language models generating biased or biased-sounding responses, which can have negative consequences for marginalized groups or for public discourse. To mitigate this issue, it's important to be aware of the potential biases in language models and to use them in a way that is mindful of these biases. There are also efforts underway to develop language models that are more fair and unbiased, and it's important to be aware of these efforts and to support them as appropriate.
Sounds important.
In summary, it's important to use me responsibly and ethically, and to consider the impact and limitations of language models. By following these best practices, you can help ensure that language models are used in a way that is beneficial and respectful to all. I hope this lesson has given you some best practices for using me responsibly and considering the impact and limitations of language models. If you have any further questions or concerns, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the AI Perspective. I hope you found the discussion on ethics informative and insightful. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest from the AI Perspective.